Now, when I discussed the new features on this camera, I did mention the side dial, which is a very interesting tool that Nikon has added to the P950. And the side dial has different features depending on what mode you're in. So let's turn the camera around and let's turn it on. Okay, it says my memory card is write protected. Let me see if I can correct that and I'll come back. Okay, so here we are back looking at the screen, the rear screen on the camera. Unfortunately, I had accidentally moved the write protect switch on my memory card. But that's corrected, and now we're back in automatic mode for shooting. So what does this side dial do, like in this mode in your shooting automatic mode? Now let me focus on this barbecue right here, and we can see clearly that the background is well lit, but the barbecue is in a shadow. So if I wanted to take a picture of this barbecue and I'm saying, you know what, this picture is kind of dark and the camera is going to be using the lighting in the background, I can always turn this dial down to get it darker if I'm going for that look, or I can turn the dial on the upside, the plus side, and then I can snap a picture. See how the barbecue looks much brighter? Of course, the background looks much brighter, but our target is the barbecue, not the background. And if you're taking a subject, then you want to be able to go back in the lab, which is your home, or on your computer, and say, you know what? Let me see which one of these pictures works best. You can always lower the compensation, and you can take several pictures. And then once you're at home or in your lab and you have the chance to review the pictures, you can decide which one is going to work best for you. And in some situations, especially at night, or if you're using the speed light, as I did in one of my previous videos, you might have a situation where the pictures are coming out too bright, because the camera is supposed to talk to the speed light that's mounted here, and it's supposed to help you come up with those perfect exposures. But because of the backgrounds, maybe you have a lot of white surfaces, shiny surfaces reflecting a lot of light, maybe the pictures are coming out too bright. So that's where you can just turn the side wheel right here, the side dial as Nikon calls it, and that's your compensation, and it will help you to adjust the light. So you could, if you find that in a certain environment the pictures are coming out too bright, you can turn this down a notch and then take your pictures and see if that helps. Of course, as you move from one room or one set of circumstances to another, then you may have to adjust this dial as needed. But usually the camera compensates very well, so only in those exceptional situations you'll have to use that feature. Okay, so as I had discussed in one of my earlier videos, there are times when you want to get that nice shot and the autofocus or automatic mode just isn't working out for you. Especially like when you're doing a bird shooting mode, sometimes it will take some wonderful pictures, but there are other times, depending on the background that you have to work with, how many things are in that picture, how much work the camera has trying to decide what's the subject and what's not the subject, you could choose to automatically focus on that subject. Now I did have a bird in frame, but he's gone. So let's use the top of this goalpost. So now that we're focused on the top of that goalpost, let's take a picture. Okay, notice how that picture came out overexposed. That's because when you are in manual mode, autofocus works, but you have to control the aperture and the shutter speed yourself. So this wheel right here, that's going to control your shutter speed. So let's move that up to 125. Let's try that again. Okay, not bad. Let's move that up to about 200, 1/200. That's a nice picture. That's a good, that's workable. Another option is that depending on your circumstances, you could also use this wheel right here to open or close your aperture. Now right here, this is the smallest it's going to be. But if you turn this wheel and you drop it down, and the max it will go here is f-stop 5.0, and if you snap a picture, see that comes out very bright. So in these sunny conditions, you never want to go down that low. Normally you use these low settings, like if you're taking pictures like with an overcast sky or in a relatively dark area, but you want to set it, you know, maybe at 8, depending on the amount of sunlight, and that works out fine. And so here I have this bird sitting on the fence. Now let's say I had problems getting an autofocus on that bird. See that? What I could do, I could turn this dial, and that would give me the focus that I'm looking for. However, since I'm in autofocus mode, that's not gonna work. So let me switch that to manual focus. And now that I'm in manual focus and I have that bird, I can turn this wheel. See how it gets blurred? Good. And this works best when your eye is right here at the viewfinder, because if you're looking at the LCD screen, especially with this bright daylight behind me, it's not so easy to see the focus. So you're better off just, or if you can see clearly, maybe your eyes are better than mine, you get that focus and you snap. Perfect. So this is the other feature that I wanted to mention on this camera, the side dial. Remember, when you're in manual mode and you're using manual focus, this becomes your focus wheel. When you're in automatic mode, this controls your exposure. This helps you to handle the light exposure so that you can compensate. It's called exposure compensation. So these are very nice features that I wanted you to be aware of as you use this wonderful camera, the Nikon CoolPixP950. And here's another situation when this feature would come in handy. For example, I have this bird that's sitting on the fence right now. Sometimes you have a situation where the bird is there and there might be another object nearby. And if you choose the autofocus, the camera isn't sure which object you're trying to focus on. So you might see the autofocus changing. It might go in and go out, and it might focus on the bird moves and it focuses on a branch, or then something else moves like a flower or a wave in the lake or whatever, and then the focus just keeps on changing because the camera isn't sure what your subject is. However, you know what your subject is. So how do you work around that? You make sure that you're in manual mode, or guess what? You could still use automatic mode, and then you could use manual focus. See that? If you're in automatic mode, you can use manual focus. If you are trying to take the picture using the automatic features, but then you just have a hard time snapping that picture, and you say, you know what? Forget that. Let me just switch this button here from autofocus to manual focus, and here we have this bird. We just zoom in, and we just turn that dial, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. There we go. And he flew away just as I was about to snap the picture. But I think he's just being extra cautious because he's on the grass right now, trying to find some food. But now that he's down on the ground, let me show you another example whereby it really helps to put the camera in manual focus. Here you can see I'm focusing on the bird through that chain link fence. If you're using autofocus, there's a tendency for the camera to be confused by the chain link fence and focus on the fence. So if you use a side dial, you can focus on the bird and you can snap the picture. So the chain link fence is blurred, but who cares? We're not trying to take a picture of the fence, we're trying to take a picture of the bird. So everything comes out just right. So when you have a picture where there's a lot, or I should say a scene where there's a lot of clutter, and you want to make sure that the camera focuses on the right object, then you turn this little knob here and you go from autofocus to manual focus, and then you can just choose a subject yourself if the camera is having a hard time focusing on your intended object or subject.